Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be getting started in just 10 minutes. So thank you so much for joining and all best wishes, all best wishes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hi, Anna. How are you doing?
Hi Gareth, I'm good. It says I cannot start my video.
Okay, one second, one second.
I don't particularly mind if I just use my face. All right. Oh,
There you go. Perfect, perfect, perfect.
clearly I should change my background. We're not talking about the taxonomy today.
Yes. I don't know why I'm not now able to turn my video on, but so anyway, we'll get started in just a few minutes because we already have people joining us, so we should be good. Should be
Wonderful.
good. Are you able to launch the polls, or do you need me to do that from my side?
Ooh, I do not. Hmm. It looks like I can launch the polls.
Okay,
I have buttons to launch. So no
you do.
worries.
You have. Wonderful. That's great. So I can do the chat box stuff. Let me see. I'm sorry that I can't show my face, but you know what I look like, so it's all good, right?
Worries. Can you see my slides okay now?
Yeah, perfect, perfect, perfect. If you can just, now you're the host, if you can just click on the chat box and make it so that everybody can chat with everybody else in the chat box. Click on the chat box, and then on the three dotted lines, it should let you um, set it so that everybody can. Um, I don't know why our system is set up this way, but it's okay. Sorry,
Right.
sorry.
No worries. Does that seem to work now?
I can just chat with. No, I can just chat with host and panelists. So I need just
So I chose.
so that
How
click on the
about,
three little
how about now?
dots.
Panelists can chat with everyone.
Yes, everybody, perfect.
Okay, great.
We're all
And the
good.
other one I set to everyone as well.
And I will put your slides into the chat box through a Google Drive link a little bit later. Perfect. Good
Wonderful.
luck. We're in good shape. In
Well, thank you.
6 minutes, I'll come on and just say like two or three things to get started, and then we're good to go. Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay. Oh my gosh, absolutely my pleasure.
So maybe we should go dark because we already have some attendees. Hi, attendees. Thanks very much for being here. Fantastic. We'll get started in just 6 minutes. So I'm going to turn myself off and come back in 6 minutes. Thank you so much. Well, welcome everybody to our event today. It's great to see my good friend Anna Jester collecting and providing demographic data in peer review. If you're here and you're joining us, we are delighted to see you. I've already put some links in the chat. I'll be posting some other links as we go through our event today. You're all very, very, very welcome. And thank you so much for joining us. Do let us know where you're from, your name, where you're from, and please feel free to ask any questions as we go through this event this evening. Anna, I can't turn my camera on, but how are you doing today? Everything's okay with you?
Really well. Thank you so much, Gareth. How are you? Are you enjoying peer review week?
So far, so good. Yes, I'm already exhausted and it's only Wednesday, but I'm doing well. Thank you so much. And thank you very much to all our attendees for joining us. Let me just say again, this is Reviewer Credits in partnership with Wiley, in partnership with eJournalPress. Anna's going to be talking about collecting and providing demographic data in peer review. If you'd like to engage, do get involved. You can ask any questions at any time by typing those questions into the chat box. I'll be loitering in the background throughout the event and helping with the chat and addressing any questions, pasting links and so on. So don't be shy. And with that, I will hand over the baton to Anna Jester. Anna, thank you so much and do take it away. The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Gareth, and for that lovely introduction. So yes, welcome to Peer Review Week. Let's talk about demographic data as part of Peer Review Week. This week is kind of the goal that we have for this particular webinar. To give you some of my demographic data, I suppose, my name is Anna Jester. I am part of sales and marketing for eJournalPress, which is part of Wiley Partner Solutions, and that is my email address there as well. And it's very funny, isn't it, how people will say things as well, like tell us in the chat on many a webinar, right? Who are you and where are you from? Very common introductory way for everyone to get to know everyone, right? So the first question that I have for you today is actually, have you been asked to provide demographic data in a peer review system? And I'm going to attempt to launch the poll. I believe I've launched the poll successfully, but do tell me in the chat if that is not the case. We can always pivot and have other options as well. But as systems have continued on, it's not lost on any of us that we've been entering information into peer review systems, but into every other kind of system as well when we log in and have a profile in that system. And for many years, you know, it was certainly first name, last name, email address. For peer review systems as well, it's always been important for us to collect information about, you know, what are the specialties or subject areas that this particular person works in, specifically so that we can make sure we ask them appropriately to review papers that they would be an expert on reviewing or be in their field as well. All right, so in our poll here, I can see we've got great participation, wonderful. So in this poll, we have no one who said yes, but did not provide data. 38% said yes, and I provided the data, and 63% said no. And then I just want to note that so far, no one has said prefer not to disclose, which is not a problem whatsoever. I generally just will talk quite a bit about making sure that prefer not to disclose is something that's an option when you are asked to provide demographic data or thinking about doing it for your journal. So let's move a little bit to that. So hopefully a number of you are either interested in being on editorial boards, potentially already on an editorial board, might be an editor or an EIC on a journal already. There are some things I very much would ask of any group that is going to collect demographic data, but specifically journals in this peer review week discussion. The first one would be make sure you think about why you want to collect data, right? It's not really great to just collect data because we can, in my personal view. You're welcome to have your own views on that as well. Number 2, plan. So do make sure you understand, if you're a journal that wants to start collecting demographic data, what you're going to do. Specifically, also define that. Expect that you're going to refine that, right? As we go on, demographic information changes, both in the terms that we use, but also in the ways that we have information on screen and inform people that we're collecting it. At that point, you would be ready to collect data. And then please, I beg of everyone, with that data, do good. That should always be the point, in my personal opinion, of collecting that kind of data, and then expect to repeat it. So let's talk a little bit about what we need to think about when we're going to contemplate giving our data or collecting data, if it's we who are part of an organization who will be collecting. So the data source and data hygiene are important. For many years, I've had a dental hygienist that I go see as part of my my dental office and get my teeth cleaned, right? But truth be told, data also needs to be kept clean and up to date and paid attention to. So self-reporting is also incredibly important. So you can see me perhaps on the video as part of this webinar. These 4 representations that you see on screen are also me. One of them is from many years ago, when it was far less common for me to be turned towards a camera at a scholarly publishing conference. This second one here is what I look like typically when I leave my hairdresser. That's about the only time you'll see me with straight hair. This third one is from many years ago, and I don't particularly, unfortunately, get to see those people all the time. And this last one is what it would look like when I was wearing gear and on what was called a mount that allowed me to collect herbs very easily while I was playing an MMORPG. So all of those are different ways that people might have known me personally. So imagine that all of us as attendees are in a room actually together having this conversation instead of watching virtually. And then look to your left, look to your right. In this virtual room you have now, you're imagining. So these seem like really nice people. They even care about peer review week, which is some of the best kind of people, right? But now, are you ready just to let these people enter in information in a database about your race or ethnicity or gender? I would hope not. So it's always important that you are the person who is entering any kind of demographic data in a system that's going to contain it about you. And again, all of these represent me. So if someone wanted to say, oh, I know that person, I know what I'll enter about them, they might have very different thoughts about how they should be entering that data than what I would choose. Again, and if I would choose, which is absolutely something I should have the option to do. So again, before a journal should start collecting data, know why. Before you collect this demographic data, know why you're going to undertake it, and of course, what you're going to do with it. So if this is going to support potentially a diversity and equity and inclusion initiative, make sure you've defined that and know how. So perhaps you're saying to yourself, oh goodness, I don't know how we might do that, right? Or, well, I don't know, is my favorite journal doing what I would recommend? So here are some resources on this particular slide. So the Council of Science Editors, which I have abbreviated CSE here, has some diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarly resources available. I've included some links to some of my favorites. Certainly the one on data collection on diversity, equity, and inclusion, very important to me, as well as the inclusive language communication resources. But there are far more, and the slides are available. You're welcome to click the full links, as well as I think they might be getting put into chat as well. Additionally, it's not just the Council of Science Editors. The International Society of Managing and Technical Editors has some case studies available as well. And I've put a couple of those here. For me, very important that editorial boards include diversity. And so that's one of the ones I've put here as well. But there are links to many more. And then also the last link down here at the bottom to read more, a great article came out from Delta Think earlier this year that was talking about benchmarking. So before you know what you need to change or what kind of authors you might be looking to attract that you haven't already attracted, you're going to need to know where you're starting from. So being able to collect that data in editorial systems can be important, but you'll need to analyze that data and then develop recommendations that really meet that need as well before you start collecting demographic data. So to that point, you need a foundation. If you're going to start collecting demographic data and you have nothing to build on, your project won't be around very long. The point of collecting demographic data, always again in my view, should be to help advance your mission. However, your society, your association, your journal, and your editorial board define that mission, but they should define their foundation as well. If you do not have a foundation, your collection of data will be disconnected, will be overlapping, and potentially painful to step on in the future and perhaps in the middle of the night, right? So make sure you have an actual foundation. As part of that, plan and implementation. And also, as a person potentially giving demographic data away, know this information. How is it used? People should be telling you on screen when you're entering it exactly how that data should be used. How is it entered? Again, self-reporting is crucial in my view. And then also, how will it be updated? So how do I know to come back in and update it? Am I asked next time I submit a review for the journal, can you please make sure you've updated your profile? Additionally, there are some standard lists now that have been put out as well. And I realized I did not include this one necessarily in the actual slide, so I will plunk it in the chat as well. But a group called the Joint Commitment for Action on Inclusion and Diversity in Publishing has created a number of resources, but including trying to standardize lists for gender and race and ethnicity. So if there is a standard for collecting this type of information, please do. It's really a lot easier to be able to run reports on information if you have everyone, choosing from a list of options, even if those options are prefer not to include or other. There are also, of course, other ways people might collect demographic data in ways to ideally help make sure they're increasing the diversity in their publications. So things like prefix and title, but institution, position, degree, community, whether or not someone is a first-generation college student, and then strangely to me as well, date of birth, which I have seen collected specifically so people can give an award to the youngest author who was published that year. So I don't think anyone's awarding the oldest one necessarily, but that would be kind of fun. Okay, and then access. So anytime you're going to give data or you're planning to collect it, know who, when, and how the data can be accessed. All right, so moving along, I want to show an example. So I do work for eJournalPress, which is part of Wiley Partner Solutions. We provide submission and peer review systems. So disclaimer, for sure, that is my conflict of interest statement right there. This is a screenshot of my demonstration site that I use. So again, some of the things that we've talked about, you can see up here at the top, there's a description of why we would collect this information. And this is, of course, just a demonstration site. It's not a real site. Don't expect anyone to actually enter real information. And in fact, a lot of the users in this system are actually pets. So my dog is a very prolific author in the demonstration site. But you can see things like which gender do you most identify with? And then that list that you can see there is actually, again, provided by what the Joint Commitment for Action and Inclusion on Diversity in Publishing has gone through and created. You can also see, always again, important to say, prefer not to disclose. Keep in mind, even if you're entering in your own information and you say prefer not to disclose, that really is a data point, right? It actually helps tell the publication or whomever is collecting this data, I do not feel comfortable telling you this information, whatever reason that is, whatever choice I've made for that. And then you can also see they've created some lists for ethnicity and for race as well. And I have used, again, those from the Joint Commitment to make sure that we're putting those out and making sure people know that they're available. So that's just, again, just an example of how people might actually be entering that kind of data. And then here is an example of a report. So again, in this example, it's called the General Use Demographics Report. I ran it for a specific timeline for all roles. And this is just a screen snip because these reports can get very large. But you can see on the left, the gender options that we again just looked at. And then you can see we're collecting information about corresponding authors, invited corresponding authors, reviewers who actually completed reviews, reviewers whom we invited, staff, editors, and associate editors, and so on. So this really kind of gives us information in a lot of ways, but you can see the prefer not to disclose, pardon me, is the one that, really has a good number of percentages assigned, along with it. But we're also then, of course, tracking the actual response rate. So we know there are some users in this system who just haven't logged into the system since we started asking these questions, or in some cases, journals decide not to make them required and just to make them optional fields as well, which is certainly an option. So that's kind of an example of how a report might look. The other thing I just want to note is that this data is aggregated. So we are not showing information about any single user to any other single user in the system, because we do not find that, that's not particularly going to be helpful, especially in reports, right? There's no good use case I've personally found for us to run a report that says, what about everybody who has this? Tell me who those people are. That's really not appropriate with this type of demographic data. Okay, moving on. I would just say, so I love this quote. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist the facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. And I find this is incredibly true. You'll hear people perhaps in an editorial board meeting who will say, oh, here's what we really should do. Well, if we don't actually know who our users are or who our authors and reviewers are, we might be wrong. We might be well-intentioned, but not correct. So again, I just want to comment and say, as part of demographic data collection, before it's being collected, before you give it, perhaps learn from others, understand what other people are doing with the data and how they're collecting it. Define the use for your particular use cases. And I would say give feedback to publications who are asking for your demographic data. If they've asked and they're asking for things that do not apply, make sure they're aware, hey, you're missing some things here. Also understand data collection options. So again, make sure there's always generally that prefer not to disclose or other or self-described. Know how that data is updated as well. And then ongoing, make sure you explain how the data is going to be used. Please note, you may change that over time. And if so, you need to be updating the website to say exactly how you're changing that. Also, control access. So make sure only people have access to this information, and again, preferably in an aggregated manner, who should have access to this information in a system. Please, again, use the data for good. And then make sure you publish your results. I would just throw out a note here. The International Peer Review Congress happens every 4 years, although last time there was a bit of a break, it took 5, but it's coming back in 3 to accommodate and get back on its every 4 years. If you are studying information about your journal, about the peer review process, that is absolutely what the International Peer Review Congress is about. And they are going to be starting to accept all kinds of submissions for abstracts and posters and presentations as part of that, which will be in 2025. But they're alerting people now so that you can really start to do your research. So I will also plug a link to that website into the chat as well. There we go. So that'll be the 10th International Congress on Peer Review and Scientific Publication. And they also have links to some of the previous Congress information so you can see what types of studies other people did about their peer review processes. Again, though, that's not the only place to publish the results. Ideally, you'll publish them in your own publications as well. So. And then also ongoing, make sure that you evaluate what you're doing. Is this doing what we thought it would do? Is this helping us in the ways that we thought it would help? And then based on the answer to that, make changes as needed. All right, so now we're going to do poll number 2. So we've talked about all kinds of things. I'm going to ask your opinion. Again, I've given you that option to prefer not to disclose. So poll number 2, should journals be collecting demographic data from reviewers? I love the diversity of these results. Specifically as well, knowing that we do have the option to say prefer not to disclose. But I completely agree. Unsure is a really valid option in this kind of poll as well. All right, looks like they've slowed down coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. But we have yes with 31% of respondents, no with 46% of respondents, and 23% are unsure. So thank you so much for giving us your feedback on that. And please know that the information in your responses for this poll and also the first one that we had previously are completely not planning to be used for any other reason other than for this webinar. So all right, so with that, I would very much like to toss it open for questions. I'm always happy to talk about demographic data and very much feel that we should question all of our options and make sure we're doing things in a truly intentional manner and for good. So with that, we will absolutely toss it open for questions.
Fantastic. We have one already that's coming in the chat box from Elizabeth Danladi. And anyone else, please feel free because we have time and Anna's here, an expert on this question. So do ask if you have questions. Elizabeth says, I've been deploying various gender tools, approaches, and strategies that have led to a shift in gender norms in northern Nigeria. I have lots of empirical information and data. How am I going to process this evidence? And perhaps more importantly, where will I publish it? That's a great question. Thank you, Anna.
What fantastic question. Absolutely. So definitely the link that I put in the chat to the peer review Congress, not a bad potential place to start. If you submit an abstract to the Congress as well and get accepted and are able to present as well, or to have a poster at the Congress, great way to get the point that you have some data out, and you certainly don't necessarily have to share all of your research and maybe have, that abstract even be about a specific aspect of it. I would just note as well, as part of publishing, right, there's a lot of networking that goes on as part of publishing, generally speaking. And if you're able to attend a conference like that International Congress on Peer Review and Scientific Publication, you're going to run into a lot of editors and be able to talk with and network with them. So if you're looking for a place, I would certainly recommend that kind of option. You might also take a look at some of the 2022 program. It's, just about a little over a year old, probably, and see if there are authors on those abstracts, or some of them might even be editors as well of journals, and see where they ended up publishing their full article as well. To really kind of give you an idea of what type of journals are interested in that information. I would love to think that many journals would be interested in that type of information specifically, and really interested in publishing papers on that. But I would definitely recommend taking a look at something like the Peer Review Congress itself, and where people have ended up publishing those, whether, it could be in their own specific journals and about their journals as well. But certainly there are some multidiscipline options out there as well.
Excellent. We've put Anna's email in the chat box as well. I'm sure she'd be happy to get follow-up from you, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. I've just pasted as well the Drive link again that contains the slides. If you download the slides, you'll be able to click on the links in the slides to get access to all of the PDFs that Anna has referred to. We have another question from Yvonne. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. On what basis do you classify countries in the list of demographic information? I see that there might be some biases. For example, Mexico is not listed in Central America in this classification.
Yes, so that is a fantastic question, and thank you very much for asking it. So I will tell you absolutely, I don't know that I would personally classify countries in the same way as what we saw on screen. I specifically used those lists because they were available from the Joint Commitment for Action and Inclusion on Diversity in Publishing, and I'll plug that link in here again as well as I might. I'm not sure if so the Joint Commitment was a large group of folks who got together and discussed what they felt it should be for gender and race and ethnicity. And I completely agree with you. I think that there are going to be things which evolve, right? I also would just say those are meant to be examples on the modify profile screen. So I come back couple of slides. Here we go. So those are just meant to be, the EG is just for example of this one, and not necessarily a specific list, of everything that would qualify in that specific term that has been put forward by the Joint Commitment for Action and Inclusion on Diversity. So I will gladly change that in the future as they change their recommendations for the list, on my demonstration site. I do think as well, eJournalPress specifically, we allow people to use whatever list they would like for this information. And we do work with a couple of publications where it is different than these lists. And sometimes that's because their society or association also has really a society membership database or an association membership database. And if they're already collecting that information about demographics about the members of their society or association, they may want to use the same list for ethnicity and race and gender that they're using in those systems as well. So there are a lot of factors in how journals decide what to include in those lists. But again, for the demonstration site, the only reason that I have put in the ones from the Joint Commitment for Action and Inclusion on Diversity in Publishing is because thus far, it's the most community-driven effort that I have seen to try and make sure we're classifying this kind of information in a meaningful way or in a correct way. So fantastic question. And please know that I am absolutely in no way wed to never changing that and think it will absolutely change.
And Yvonne says, awesome, thanks. So that's great. Yeah. And you have Anna's email, so please.
Definitely. And I would say too, the Joint Commitment are typically looking for folks to provide input as well. So feel free to reach out to them and specifically tell them your comments. And especially, if you're interested in volunteering to try and help make it better in the future.
That's a great point. If anyone listening to this is interested in volunteering, then what should they do, Anna? Should they get in touch with you, or?
If you'd like to, you're welcome to. Also on that slide that we had about resources as well. So you certainly, I can recommend, so I've got information here about the Council of Science Editors, which I've just abbreviated CSE. Sorry for not defining that. I've just broken my own rule there, please forgive. And did it again with the ISMTE, which is the International Society of Managing and Technical Editors. So let me just pull up links to those sites. Again, also, and perhaps to the previous question we had as well about where should we publish, the Council of Science Editors, as well as the International Society of Managing and Technical Editors, all have many resources, not just the ones that we see on screen here as well. And in many cases have both information that is free as well as the opportunity for membership. And in fact, some of the memberships available can be discounted based on geographic region or the how long you've been in your career as well. So let me I plugged in just links right here to the Council of Science Editors website, as well as to the International Society of Managing and Technical Editors website. And then last, though it's not on this screen that I've shared right now, the Society for Scholarly Publishing as well. And I've actually participated, in fact, in the mentorship programs for both the Council of Science Editors and also the Society for Scholarly Publishing. So I would say that's another great way to contemplate. If you become a member of those organizations, or note that you want to become a member of those organizations and want to apply for the mentorship program, they will attempt to match you with someone who can actually provide you, information about career progression that might be helpful for you as well. So all of those are definitely resources that I would say, please take a look at. I know it's a lot of information, so don't think that I'm saying you should read all of that today. No, take your time by all means. Those organizations intentionally provide, information for people that are in our space and are working with journals, although it's not just journals, books, monographs. I'm sure databases at this point is probably even considered a publication type for many people, as well as all kinds of other new outputs and video. So keep that in mind, but I would say those are all great. And you're also welcome to email me, and I'll gladly try and help steer you in directions I think are helpful.
Yeah, this is fantastic, and everybody attending this has also been really interactive, which we appreciate very much. Like, I don't know if there are any other questions this afternoon, but I put my email there as well. Like, if you'd like to engage further with Anna with this demographic information, like, don't forget to download the slides. There's links in the slides that you can access. Let me also just in a moment give you links to reviewer credits. But if we have no more questions, Anna, do you have any closing comments or?
Yeah. So mainly, I would just say thank you again, Gareth, and to Reviewer Credits for asking me to talk today. As you can probably tell, I definitely have some opinions and love to talk about demographic data collection, right? But also about peer review systems. But thank you so much for having me, and please do know that the conversation doesn't have to stop ever. In my view, we should continually be talking about these kinds of topics.
Absolutely, and we're going to put this video on our YouTube channel, provide the link to everybody who's attended, everybody that's registered. I'm sure that also eJournalPress, Wiley will put this up. So this, I hope, will be a video that will be very useful for colleagues in the future. Lots of links, lots of information, lots of homework for everybody. So thank you very much, Anna, for this, and have a great peer review week. Thank you so much.
Agreed. Truly a pleasure.